Luca Brambilla. Initially with a little 8.4% section, and then 13% for the riders for about half a kilometre. And that could well snap the elastic amongst these three riders. Brambilla looking a little bit in difficulty. Pirazzi goes to the front. And you've got to admire the heart of this man. Pirazzi finds the energy to give Adapuma a turn.
Yes, we've seen it on so many occasions where he just get a little bit of a recovery time and then he can take it up real strong again. And with Adapuma, he got that bit of time in the wheel there, and now wants to push on again. Of course, we're in a section here where it's not as steep at the moment, and that's where they're trying to pull out a little bit of advantage. But back in the peloton, it's just rolling along. Astana continue on setting that pace, but up front here we see three leaders, Capecchi, Brambilla and Weening. They're giving it their all, still with over 6 kilometres to go. Difficult to see them holding on, but again we see Nibali there. He was trying to warm up his fingers, seemed to be very cold, and that's going to have a bearing on the outcome of the stage today. I think a lot of riders, because of the descent, we've been down there very, very cold, and I think that some of the riders will suffer because of that, and maybe not able to go on the attack as they would like to be in the normal weather conditions. But here, it's terrible conditions. When you see it's like a Paris-Nice in the beginning of March.
Remarkable weather across Europe, and remarkable scenes on the Lavaredo as the attacks are starting to come out of the GC group. Astana not setting a pace that is putting all the riders under. And here we go. Iris Kopecky has left Brambilla and Weening. That's not really a surprise. We've hit another steep ramp, and Iris Kopecky clearly the strongest of those three riders. 20 odd seconds or less between himself and the Pirazzi and Adapuma. Pirazzi looks around to see, surveys the scene behind, and they're not too far at all. Adapuma hasn't gone to the front in a little while. He's the one that chased across to Pirazzi, of course, and Pirazzi looked like he was really struggling at that point. Now, who's this that's come up? It's the GC group. Herrada of the Movistar team is struggling, but meanwhile his teammate up front is going very well indeed. Robert Kieserlowski has joined up with Stefano Pirazzi and Darwin Adapuma. Kieserlowski 16th overall at 12 minutes and 5 seconds. Slipped away out of the general classification fight in the last week, but this could be an opportunity for him to grab something amazing from the Giro d'Italia.
Yes, somebody who is that place in general classification will be allowed to ride out of the peloton, and there will not be a reaction immediately. The Astana team, as we can see, they're still just setting the pace on the front, and it is an opportunity for a rider, Kieserlowski, who can finish quite well, and we've seen him a number of days there where he is that style of rider. He's a good climber, so mountaintop finish, and an opportunity for him to have a go for stage victory, because the general classification, I don't think that's where he would like to be in 16th in the overall classement.
One suggestion on Twitter that cycling could well be a contender for a place in the Winter Olympics, this sort of weather. Iris Kopecky pushes on. Small little relief in the gradient as Robert Kieserlowski goes to the head of this small group. Now, where's Stefano Pirazzi? Has he attacked, or has he cracked? Kieserlowski pushing on with Darwin Adapuma. Adapuma now gives him a turn. Still Astana set the pace, and yet to see a big push from the likes of Cadel Evans. We saw Perazzi there, he'd been caught by that group, so Perazzi's cracked in a big way. But still a great effort from him and success in his march as he's confirmed his status in the mountains classification. 5 kilometres to go for the two riders behind, Peter Weening and Gianluca Brambilla. Now 16 seconds between Eris Kopecky and those two riders chasing. Could Eris Kopecky be on his way to another great success, as we got sight of Rafael Maika struggling to get his cape off? It could have been a dodgy moment for him.
Is he trying to get it on, or is he trying to get it off? It looked like he was trying to put it back on, and riders, really suffering here. And if you're in that situation where you want to put back on your cape at this moment, to tell that he's really suffering and the cold has got to him big time.
Once the cold gets into your bones, well, there's often nothing you can do about it. You want the legs to go around, you want the muscles to work, but if your core temperature drops to a certain point, it can be really difficult. And despite your, it's not necessarily about willpower. It's just what the muscles will or won't do.
Yes, it's a terrible feeling, and if you slip off too early, and I think that some of the riders has made a mistake. We have seen some of the riders, Kizilowski of course, he's all in black there. When he came out of the group, it was just difficult to recognise him, but you need that extra layer with this horrible conditions, and if the cold is really getting into you, well, you can pay in these final 2-3 kilometres.
So now the situation inside the final 4 kilometres. Eris Kopecky is out front, and he's been chased by Peter Weening and Gianluca Brambilla. Natapuma and Kizilowski are also ahead of this group of favourites, led by the Astana team and including Vincenzo Nibali. Cadel Evans is in there, so too is Rigoberto Urán. Natapuma and Kizilowski, as Brambilla and Weening push on. Chasing hard behind Eris Kopecky. And the Astanas are pushing on, setting a relentless pace. How important is it for Vincenzo Nibali that he wins the stage? So now Peter Weening pushes on from Gianluca Brambilla. The man from Amiga Pharma Quickstep has given a good effort indeed. Great effort from Peter Weening. He's been out there for a while now. 13 seconds just behind Eris Kopecky. So Kopecky, if he falters at all, 32 seconds back to Nibali and co. And you got a sight there of Peter Weening. Pelazzotti ready to pounce. Just in front of the Italian road race champion is the red colours of BMC. That's Cadel Evans. Pozzovivo is there, the diminutive figure on the left hand side of AG2R.
Nibali goes in the attack here. He's pushing on, and surprising to see that he's
here
doing
comes Vincenzo. Sorry, Sean. This is a key moment in the race. Vincenzo Nibali starting to move ahead of his main rivals, and he even has Tanel Kanger for company. So the Astana team are in the process of blowing apart the general classification group, and this is a key moment because Vincenzo Nibali doesn't just want to win this race overall, he wants to win this stage.
Yes, and it didn't look like it was a big attack, but we're in a section where it's really steep here, and the teammates were really surprised at what was happening, because we could see Tanel Kanger that he was looking for a moment, and then he takes it up with Nibali in his wheel there, and it's going to be interesting to see, will anybody be capable of closing them down, or will they go on all the way to the finish?
Peter Weening is pushing towards the top, inside 3 kilometres now for himself, but he's still hasn't quite caught Eris Kopecky. Very little between them. Kizilowski is caught by Vincenzo Nibali, and most of the rest of the general classification riders have closed down that attack of Vincenzo Nibali.
And the two, one AGR rather there. Betancourt is there, very much to the fore here in the wheel of Micah, of course, the young classification leader.
So forget most of them. It's the two Colombians, Carlos Betancourt and Rigoberto Urán, that have managed to close them down. Riders are coming over in ones or twos, but there's time enough for Vincenzo Nibali to go for it again. 12 seconds between Peter Weening and Eris Kopecky. Looked a bit less than that last time we saw. Pozzovivo is struggling to get back on terms. So is
Scarponi
and Niemitz are struggling too.
Cadel Evans,
yes, Cadel Evans is being dropped. Can he find a way back into this? As Brambilla is shut down and dropped. Nibali goes again. Carlos Betancourt looks to cover it. And Weening has been caught. So now just Eris Kopecky out front. And Cadel Evans, can he respond to this? With 2.5 kilometres to go, it's looking ominous for the Australian. It's looking ominous too for Eris Kopecky out front.
Yes, I think it's game over. He's seen to be suffering on this real difficult section as Vincenzo Nibali just keeps on pushing on, putting in these little accelerations, and we can see Rigoberto Urán has moved up here also, and he seems to be riding away from at the moment.
Speaking of riding away, here goes Vincenzo Nibali again as he catches Eris Kopecky. He moves clear of the rest of the group. The two Colombians aren't able to respond. Rigoberto Urán goes ahead of Carlos Betancourt, but they're looking at the race leader Vincenzo Nibali riding away into the distance. There's still a long way to go in this stage. Kopecky fights on, but he'll soon be caught by Rigoberto Urán and Carlos Betancourt. Urán of the Sky Pro cycling team. Betancourt in the brown, white and blue colours of AG2R. Pelozzotti with Pozzovivo for company. Scarponi's there as well for Lampre Merida. That's a long way to the finish for Vincenzo Nibali, but he's decided to strike out for a glorious stage victory in the Giro d'Italia. Kopecky is a beaten docket. So too is Weening, but he continues to push on. Further back, Pelozzotti and Pozzovivo.
And we can see all are suffering big time here, and of course this is a real difficult section. Around the 2 kilometre to go, it kicks up to 18%, so they're on that section at the moment. We can see Nibali just grinding away at it. We can see Betancourt and Urán also just struggling. It looks like they're not going anywhere, but it's the gradient here. It's so steep, and everybody is just grovelling to get up this one.
Yeah, around about 18% at this point. So this is the toughest part of the mountain. Then it levels off to still pretty excruciating 13-12%. Only really eases up in the last 100 metres. So Vincenzo Nibali has decided to go for it in a big way. He's got the advantage, and look at this. The slow motion really gives you an indication of how cold it is. Out of the saddle once more as he pushes to press home his advantage. And we saw Rigoberto Urán look across at Carlos Betancourt as if to say, well, what have you got? Betancourt gave him a turn, but to what odds, to what value? There's very little aerodynamic advantage to be had from sitting on the wheel in these sort of gradients. Scarponi is suffering. But the two Colombian riders desperate to try and close down the advantage of Vincenzo Nibali. Carlos Betancourt and Rigoberto Urán. Conditions a lot different to where they would have grown up. Meanwhile, Cadel Evans looks like he's getting himself back into contention. This is a fantastic effort from Cadel Evans, at least to try and protect his position in second position on general classification. Betancourt ditches his bottle. Any little bit of psychological or actual advantage that can be gained from that, well, the mind is The mind is the greatest muscle that they have in their armory at this point. Scarponi looks like he's getting back up there. Up front, Vincenzo Nibali. His thoughts only about the group, or about the hill in front, and just as I say, he looks over his shoulder to see what sort of an advantage he's got on that hairpin. He's got 1.6 kilometres to go, and they're at 1,700 metres. And remember, this hill finishes at just a smidge over 2,300, so he's got another 600 metres of climbing in the next 1,500 metres of cycling. It's steep.
Very steep, and we can see there that he is just walking away at it, and although pulling out the advantage to the two chasers there, Betancourt and Rigoberto Urán, and we can see Cadel Evans, we can see the supporters there getting a bit over anxious with Nibali, and he just pushed them off a bit, but at least they're not pushing him, which is the good thing. Sometimes they want to push you, and that's what you do not need, because you can get a fine for that. But Cadel Evans doing a great job here. I suppose the interesting thing is, for the young jersey classification, we have seen that the leader there has slipped off quite a bit, and he's not up there. Mike he's disappeared, and Betancourt, of course, want to push on here, as we can see the two AGR men. Is it just one?
No, just one. Is that
Mike is?
Yeah, it's Rafael Mike, I think.
Mike
just
is
behind
still here.
him.
Yes, he's coming back also. Is that Pelazzotti?
Yeah, Pelazzotti was in there for Androni Giocattoli. Meanwhile, these two Colombians have still got a decent advantage, and they've both got things to race for. Rigoberto Urán racing for second place ahead of Cadel Evans, who's chasing behind in the distance in the red and black colours of BMC. Up front, Vincenzo Nibali piles it on. 1,300 metres to go, and just a little moment there on the inside. Let's hope the spectators can stay away from Vincenzo Nibali. This climb was rendered meaningless back in 1967 because of all the pushes, and it's just terrible when you see the spectators feeling that they have to put a hand on the riders. As Cadel Evans pushes on, Pozzovivo of AG2R closes down, but Betancourt, the man on the left here for AG2R, riding towards the white jersey of the leader of the Young Riders classification. His companion Rigoberto Urán riding towards second place. He needs to find 10 seconds to Cadel Evans to move into second position. So there's battles throughout the mountain. This the battle. And here goes Urán. Duarte had managed to drag himself up. So three Colombians chasing Vincenzo Nibali. Three Colombians pushing on, but they can do nothing about Vincenzo Nibali up in front. Apparently not anyway. Still a kilometre left to ride though. That's a long way in these conditions. Duarte looks as if he's struggling. Betancourt not enjoying the gradient. Rigoberto Urán is a young man, but he looks he'll age on this hill today. Inside the final kilometre for the race leader, the overall race leader, the stage leader, Vincenzo Nibali. Cadel Evans grinds away on that gear, desperate to try and get back in contention with these riders, because the man on the front here, Rigoberto Urán, is threatening to take over his second position. Three Colombians. Colombia famous for their mountain goats. They're wonderful climbers over the years, and they have a rich crop of talented riders, but is that 50 seconds I heard in my ear? The gap between the man up front and the left hand side of your screen, Vincenzo Nibali, and the three men chasing him, as Cadel Evans pushing hard, and Damiano Caruso's on a good day for Cannondale. 32 seconds now is the official gap, so misheard that one. But still, it's a handy advantage. Half a minute to the good for Vincenzo Nibali. He's taken 4 stage victories. And 1 minute and 5, we understand, between Nibali and the Scarponi group, including Cadel Evans. So that would suggest round about half a minute advantage for Rigoberto Urán. over Cadel Evans, so no doubt about it, Cadel Evans is going to slip into third position. And now Evans is struggling to stay with Scarponi, Niemitz, Pelizzotti. Conditions absolutely abysmal on the Tre Cime de Lavaredo.
Yes, just horrible conditions, and everybody suffering because of the conditions they've been in for the final 25 kilometres, 30 kilometres. The cold has got into a lot of riders, and we can see, you know, they're not going as they normally would on a climb like this, but everybody is in the same situation. The cold is really, you know, hitting everybody, but Nibali, you know, he's proven the strongest here again, just riding away from everybody. And we did forecast that a bit with the advantage he has in the general classification, the way he's been riding the last number of days. Not surprising that he's going for this stage victory. You know, this is a very important one as race leader to win this, you know, big mountain stage. Although some of the mountains being taken out will still be looked at as, you know, one of the big stages of this Giro. Yeah,
he really wanted it. Inside the last 400 metres now for Vincenzo Nibali, and thankfully we've had pictures all the way up to the top of the hill. He's inside the final part with the stationary cameras, and horrific conditions, but wonderful to see so many spectators on the Lavaredo cheering on these stars of cycling, who are delighted to be able to deliver such an entertaining race and a wonderful stage. And for Vincenzo Nibali, I think it's really important for him that he's been able to demonstrate in a mountain top finish that he is the man of the race.
Yes, and unfortunately, you know, yesterday's stage not going on for him. He would have had an opportunity yesterday and again today if it had been a big mountain stage, but you know, to do it in the circumstances and when you're the race leader, it's always important. And the rider himself, you know, you want to prove that you're the best one and win a time trial first of all, which he has done, but win a big mountain top finish, a big stage, it's also of major importance.
Vincenzo Nibali now almost within sight of the finish line at the top of the final climb of the Giro d'Italia of 2013. It's the Cima Coppi, the highest point that this year's race reaches, and the Colombian triumvirate, the combined ranks of one of the great climbing nations, not able to do anything about the race leader. The home favourite Vincenzo Nibali grinds on towards glory. Meanwhile, Cadel Evans, well, just desperately trying to limit his losses. It's been a great race for Cadel Evans, but not equal to the task, unfortunately, today. But Vincenzo Nibali looks behind. He can barely see more than 10 or 15 yards, but he knows that he's taken the victory as Vincenzo Nibali takes stage 20 of the Giro d'Italia at the top, the summit of Tre Cime de Lavaredo. And now 3 Colombians fight it out for second position. Which one of them is going to get it? Will it be Duarte that comes across the line? It's almost impossible to tell, ahead of Rigoberto Urán. So great result for the Colombian team, but not the stage victory they would have liked. And Carlos Betancourt misses out on the bonus seconds, but still very significant advantage between himself and Rafael Majka. So he will move back into the young riders classification jersey. Superb performance, bearing in mind he had 2 stoppages on the final hill. And as the riders come over in 1s and 2s, Franco Pelizzotti, Domenico Pozzovivo, the diminutive figure of the small AG Tour climber, Damiano Caruso, you can barely look behind.
Sant'Ambrogio also coming over there, and we can see here Majka coming over, suffering majorly here, and going to lose his white jersey classification certainly to Betancourt.
It's all up for him as the 2 Lampre Merida riders, Michele Scarponi, and just preceded by Rafael Niemic, Przemysław Niemic I should say. And now we have Cadel Evans winching himself to the top of this relentless climb and finishing off what's been a tough day for him. And he will lose second place on general classification to Rigoberto Urán, but should still stay on the podium, I do believe. Riders coming up in dribs and drabs, and this, the worst pain and suffering of the Giro, is completed. And they'll be coming up in 1s and 2s for a long time to come. A savage climb to finish, even in dry conditions, and this cold weather will have made it just that bit more arduous. And well, the riders can't get to the safety and comfort of their cars and buses quick enough. Now that was the moment when Vincenzo Nibali having to push the spectators out of the way, and Twitter's gone a bit mad actually with complaints about the spectators, and I don't.
Well, what is new? We've seen it always in the big tours, but the spectators, they're there for a long time, and they get over anxious as their big heroes come up, and we could see it there once again with Nibali. A lot of changes, of course, in general classification. Iran will definitely move ahead of Cat 11s. The young jersey classification, Betancourt takes that over, and Mark Cavendish will lose his red jersey to Nibali, because I make it that Nibali will go to 128, where Cavendish he had 113 starting out this morning.
Moved up to 117.
So Nibali will take that red jersey classification, the points classification.
Wow. Well, I guess he'll get to wear it at least, because Nibali will be wearing the pink jersey. But it does mean that Mark Cavendish has to deliver in the final stage in Brescia. So there's confirmation of the stage results. Vincenzo Nibali takes that road stage victory that he wants. Back-to-back stage wins for the race leader. Ahead